4.5 in Algebra 2, we're going to talk about the irrational conjugates theorem. And so what it says is if you have a plus the square root of b and it is a 0 of the function, then its conjugate, which is a minus the square root of b, is also a 0. So for example, if 3 plus square root 7 is a 0, then 3 minus square root of 7 is also a 0. Or if 5 plus, or how about 5 minus the square root of 10 is a 0, then 5 plus the square root of 10 is also a 0. So if you have a 0 that is irrational, then its conjugate is also a 0. So this says write a polynomial f, its least degree, so that means the lowest degree possible. It has rational coefficients, so only like its coefficients are not anything with like square roots or anything like that. The leading coefficient is 1, so it didn't have a stretch. The zeros are 3 and 2 plus square root of 5. So if they are 2 plus square root of 5, that tells us they are also 2 minus square root of 5. Now, if the 0 is 3, that means the factor is x minus 3. So you do x minus the 0 to get the factor. So then if the 0 is 2 plus the square root of 5, you do x minus 2 plus square root of 5 to get the factor. And then 2 minus square root of 5, you do x minus 2 minus square root of 5. Now before we get going really, let's go ahead and just distribute this negative. So we have x minus 2 minus square root of 5. And distribute this negative, so we have x minus 2 plus square root 5. Now, to find our answer, we need to multiply these all out. Technically, you can multiply in any order, but to make it much easier on yourself, you should go ahead and multiply the two irrational conjugates together first. So I'm going to use a box to do that. They each have 3 terms, so my box is going to be a 3 by 3. And the box just helps us stay organized. All right, x minus 2 minus the square root of 5, x minus 2 plus the square root of 5. Okay, so x times x is x squared, x times negative 2 is negative 2x, x times negative square root of 5 is negative x square root 5, and then negative 2x plus 4, because negative 2 times negative 2, and then negative 2 times negative square root of 5 is positive 2 square root of 5. And then x times the square root of 5. And then negative 2 times the square root of 5. And then negative square root of 5 times negative square root of 5 is negative square root of 25. Oh, sorry. Negative times a positive is negative square root of 25. So notice that these x squared of 5 and negative x squared of 5 cancel each other out. 2 square root of 5 and negative 2 square root of 5 cancel each other out. And then this negative square root of 25 turns into negative 5 because the square root of 25 is negative 5. All right, so if we combine things, we have x squared. All right, and then we have this negative 2x, and negative 2x makes negative 4x. And then this 4 and the minus 5 makes minus 1. All right, so now from there, you multiply the last two, which they don't have square roots, so they're much easier to multiply. So I'm going to do x minus 3 times x squared minus 4x minus 1. All right, so I just go ahead and multiply through like we've practiced. And I get x cubed minus 7x squared. And then the 12 minus 1 is 11x plus 3. And that's what f of x equals. Okay, let's go down here to the self-assessment and let's try another couple. So if this is a 0, then that tells me its conjugate is a 0. So 3 minus the square root of 2. So the factors are x minus the zeros and x minus the 0. All right, and you distribute that negative, so you get x minus 3 minus square root 2, and then you get x minus 3 plus square root 2. All right, now those are the only two zeros, so we're going to multiply those out, once again using a box to keep our work nice and straight. Make the boxes big enough to write in. So I get x squared minus 3x, and I get negative x times the square root of 2, and then minus 3x plus 9. And then negative 3 times negative square root of 2 is positive 3 square root 2. And then positive x times square root 2, negative 3 square root 2. And then this makes negative, and then 2 times 2 is square root 4. And that changes to negative 2. All right, these cancel out, and these cancel out. And so you're left with x squared minus 6x, and then the 9 minus 2 is 7. And that is the equation that would give you the zeros of 3 plus square root of 2 and 3 minus square root of 2. All right, let's go ahead and try one more. Let's do the example B. So one of the zeros is 4. That makes x minus 4. To make your factor, you do x minus the 0. So x minus the 0, 1 minus square root of 5. And if it has 1 minus square root of 5, it has 1 plus square root of 5. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and distribute those negatives first. So I get x minus 1 plus square root 5, and I get x minus 1 minus square root of 5. Now, there's 3 zeros. You can multiply them in any order, but it's going to be much easier to multiply these two first. All right, we're just going to work smarter, not harder. It technically works the other way, but it'll be a lot easier this way. So, box to organize. X minus 1 plus square root 5, x minus 1 minus square root 5. All right, I find these really easy to fill in right here, and then I pay close attention to the right side in the bottom row. So this is positive x square root 5, negative 1 square root 5, or just negative square root 5 is fine, and then negative x square root 5, and then this one's a negative times a negative, so it's positive 1 square root 5. And then square root of 5 times negative square root of 5 is negative square root 25, which turns into negative 5. All right, these cancel out. And so I have x squared, negative x and negative x are negative 2x, and then 1 minus 5 is negative 4. Okay, and so last but not least, we need to multiply those two. All right, so we have x minus 4, x squared minus 2x minus 4. Just multiplying all the way through. Be careful of your signs. All right, so I get x cubed minus 6x squared plus 4x plus 16. I just combined like terms.